Hi, I'm Batya Novick. I'm a therapist and founder of Calla Collective. At Calla Collective, we provide compassionate, specialized mental health support for people navigating the complex world of reproductive health, from fertility struggles to surrogacy, IVF loss, pregnancy, and beyond. We know that every fertility journey is deeply personal, full of hope, heartbreak, resilience, and strength. That's why we've launched a storytelling series to honor the real voices, real experiences that often get unheard. In this series, we'll be sitting down with individuals and families who have walked these paths to share their truths, the emotional highs, the deep challenges, and the moments that changed everything. Our goal is to foster connection, reduce stigma, and remind everyone going through this you're not alone. And today, I'm honored to be joined by Jenny Kaplan, who's very generously sharing her fertility story with us. Thanks, Jenny.
Thank you so much for having me.
Jenny, can you just start? Tell us a little bit about your fertility story, how it started, and what you hoped in the beginning.
So I had a relatively long fertility journey. I know it's all subjective, but for my husband and I, it took us about 6 years to have our now 1-year-old Lenny. So we started naturally trying at home about like shy of a year. We got married when I was 33, so I must have been 34 at the time. I'm 41 now to give you like context and timing, but we tried for like 6 or 7 months. My OB at the time had said, based on your age, if you're not pregnant within 4 to 6 months of trying naturally at home, come and see me. Um, I think I put that off maybe to the 7 or 8 month mark. Uh, I was very disgruntled by not getting pregnant, but like we went into every month like hopeful and optimistic, like maybe this is going to be the month, maybe it's going to stick. Um, so when I went to see my OB, she suggested that I go to an IVF specialist, and we ended up going to IVF specialist. Later that summer, I put it off.
How did
Um,
you find a doctor? Did your OB recommend somebody? Did you do research or talk to friends?
So initially, my OB recommended a few doctors that were in the building of her practice, and I just went to one of the people on the sheet, one of the clinics she recommended. I felt like a deer lost in headlights.
Yeah.
Um, I had many people without my knowledge that were going through IVF. But at the time, I felt like all my friends and family were just getting pregnant, and I felt very isolated, and I didn't know how to talk about it with anyone outside of Chris, my husband. I felt like something was wrong with me. Um, and I just kept waiting every month for positive news to share with friends and family. So I could barely talk about it myself. But yes, I found my first doctor. I didn't do all the research in hindsight that I would have done now. And I stuck with that doctor just because it was the doctor that my OB at the time recommended. I eventually switched to another clinic and another doctor who I highly regard. Um, but I got connected with this doctor that my OB recommended. Um, And I think a couple of months later, he did a scan on me. I did like the routine visit, and he identified that I had a chocolate or endometrioma cyst um, that needed to be removed before we did a first egg retrieval. And to give you like some context of like my reproductive like health prior to this of what I knew I had some cysts and I knew I had some fibroids at the time because I was experiencing irregular bleeding before trying to get pregnant. I just didn't really know what it all meant. Like every time I would go to get a scan, they would say that my hormones were out of balance, but like that was like all I really knew because no one was really talking about hormones at the time.
Right.
Um,
Is
and
that
then
why you went to IVF versus, so many people start when they go to a fertility doctor for the first time. The standard seems to be 3 rounds of an IUI. If that doesn't heal
yeah,
the pregnancy, we'll move to IVF.
um, we went to IVF because I wasn't getting pregnant like shy of a year.
Mhm.
And during that scan, we found this endometrioma.
Right.
Um, and I had to have it removed to move forward with egg retrieval or IVF. And everything got paused because of COVID. So like
Right.
not this is like maybe a very long intro of how everything
No, no, no,
happened.
this is good. Keep going. This is great.
Um,
So many people have long stories where they go
yeah,
into this journey being like, okay, I think we'll be doing this for like 3 to 6 months tops. And then it's like, brrr,
yeah,
like years.
yeah. So we went and so like I, for example, put off the meeting with the IVF clinic because I was just overwhelmed by it and it was like very emotionally triggering. I wasn't in therapy at the time. I couldn't compartmentalize my emotions and I just felt so lost.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a friend at the time that I could talk about this with, but we were told I had to have the cyst removed and I scheduled that procedure. It was fall 2019.
Mhm.
So I went in for what was meant to be like, and this is like a common thing, when you first go to the IVF clinic, they'll find whether it's like a cyst or a polyp or even a fibroid. Often the doctor will say, we have to like take care of this before we start egg retrieval.
Mhm.
It was meant to be like a routine in and out procedure. I said maybe he had said it's going to take like a couple hours. Ended up being almost a 6 hour surgery. They found that I had stage 3 endometriosis. Um, I had two cysts removed, and my fallopian tubes were stuck to my uterus. They were clogged. So that is obviously why one
You
of the
were
reasons
getting
I wasn't
pregnant,
getting pregnant.
right?
And I found this out like 2 days before my 35th birthday.
Mhm.
So it was like kind of like this big revelation of like, I had been like lost for a couple of years. Like, why can't I get pregnant? And then it was just like a mixed bag of emotions of feeling relieved that I understood my body a little bit better, like angry that I didn't have the tools and resources to put all the pieces of the puzzle together up until this point. Um, just like emotional.
Right.
And that surgery was really hard on my body. It was like a really tough recovery. Um,
Did they
but
remove your fallopian tubes? Were they able to
no,
restore and
we're
fix?
able to, yeah,
Great.
I'm super grateful. Like my fallopian tubes like remain intact. Nothing had to be cut. Um, Everything was put back where it should be. And my surgeon was like, you could try for a few months to see if you get pregnant naturally, but if it doesn't happen, like I would definitely like resume with IVF. And COVID hit like 3 months after that. So I'm pretty sure I got pregnant. I had like, I can't remember the term when it's like pre-chemical pregnancy,
Mhm.
right? It's like chemical pregnancy and there's like something maybe before that, or
Yeah.
maybe it was chemical pregnancy.
Yeah. Usually, like a chemical pregnancy is anything kind of before an ultrasound. And
Yeah. My period before COVID, I had like a period was, oh, my period's always been like 28-day cycle. It was
Mhm.
like over a week late. So I have a hunch I got pregnant once during that time. It didn't last. And then COVID hit. We kept trying and not getting pregnant. And it was becoming really, really heavy at
Yeah.
that point. Um,
I bet
like,
trying even became hard and stressful.
yeah, it's awful
Yeah.
because you go from like Chris and I, we had been together like 5 years before we started to get trying to have a baby. And like we weren't in a rush. Like we
Right.
fell in love very quickly. We knew we wanted to have a family and be together, but like we were building a business, we were working really hard. We were just like enjoying our life and each other. And then something hit. Like he had always said, you know, I don't know if I'm ever going to be ready to have kids. So it's really going to take you to tell me when we have to start trying. And really good friends had her baby like shy of a year when we got married, and something just like shifted in me. I was suddenly ready. I was like, oh, I'm ready. I want a baby. Like, so that's when we started trying.
Yeah.
And um we were in like, you know, we were in the trenches of COVID and trying to have a baby. And it was just like this dreaded time of the month
Yeah.
because I didn't have much faith that we were going to have a positive pregnancy test like the following month.
I always say when you're really trying to conceive and it's not going well, it's the unsexiest sex that ever can be.
Yeah,
And
it
then
sucks.
it sucks. It sucks. And it
It's
can really
awful.
impact your relationship,
Yeah,
where it's the opposite of connective. It's like disconnective, and people
yeah,
fight about it or feel terrible. And then to your point, you're waiting for your period or not your period, and there's so much pressure.
yeah. It's really awful. And like we went from having like this fun and healthy sex life to the complete opposite.
Yeah.
And like you said, there's like nothing sexy about it. And like, I would say to Chris, like, this is our ovulation window. We've got to do it tonight. And it wouldn't always work. Like he just would be
Yeah.
like, I can't, I'm not in the mood. Like this is just
Oh,
like the
that's
worst.
right. Because it's not
And
about desire or intimacy. It's like a
yeah,
job to do. And like guys are like, I feel like a stud. This is
yeah.
horrible.
Those are like his exact words at some point, and it's just like leaving you with like the worst taste in your mouth,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's really dehumanizing. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, I think it was around June or July of COVID, like a lot of doctors' offices had closed. We like paused the whole IVF conversation. I wasn't even sure if I really wanted to do it at that point.
Right.
Um, I didn't know much about it. It seemed like this heavy, depressing thing, which it can be, but also it's an amazing modality and is incredibly positive and like life changing.
Yeah.
So, um, we decided that summer of 2020, when we got back to the city, we were living in Maine at the time, um, during COVID. But when we came back, we were going to start up, which we did. And that turned into a cycle from 2020 to for 5 more years of
IVF.
multiple egg retrievals, IVF rounds, another surgery, a surprise natural pregnancy as the grand finale.
So,
So
okay, so you started IVF. Let's start at the beginning. So you came back to the city. COVID was still happening, obviously, but the doctor's offices were back opened.
yeah,
And what was that first IVF cycle, or maybe the first couple of IVF cycles like?
so we did like egg retrieval first, and that went well. I got like a nice amount of eggs, especially because when you do when you have laparoscopic surgery, they're always going to remove parts of your I mean your ovaries.
Mhm.
Even for me, it was very minimal, but it does reduce your egg count.
Mhm.
So I was a bit nervous about that, but for like my age, because at this point I was 36, almost 37.
Right.
I was in my late 30s. But I am super grateful that we had some like good quality eggs. We made a handful of good embryos and we were like, let's go. Like we were
Right.
like really felt like we were moving in like the right direction.
Right.
Um, did my first transfer uh, December of 2020. So like back to back. Um, got pregnant. My HCG count was low and I didn't even know. Like they called me and they were like, you're really low. I think I was like a 26 and like baseline they like to see is 30.
Right.
Again,
So that initial blood pregnancy test at
yeah.
your fertility doctor is the first indication of pregnancy. But to your
And
point,
you don't
sometimes,
obviously you if you're getting pregnant naturally, like these are numbers like you don't know about because
that's
no
right.
one's getting like their blood tested at 4 weeks,
That's
right?
right. Right.
Yeah,
Which adds to the pressure because if this was a natural conception, you wouldn't know you were pregnant. You would be living your life and
yeah,
looking at this. So we put so much pressure on these numbers that
yeah.
sometimes look quite low. And maybe it is because there's a problem, but also it's so early in the process.
It could mean nothing. So they were like, this isn't like an ideal number, but like you're gonna keep coming in for monitoring. They had me come in like I think the next day and maybe a few days after that. And things were trending in like a positive way.
Right.
And then um I wasn't worried about it all because in my mind, this is so naive. I was like, I'm pregnant. It's gonna work. I'm finally pregnant. Like
Right.
we're gonna have a baby. I was just like over the moon. Um,
And
and
that's
then
the beauty of your first pregnancy where
yeah,
nothing goes wrong is you just assume the minute you have a positive pregnancy test, that's it. We did it.
Mhm. I really believed I'm like, if I just could get pregnant,
Right.
it's gonna be okay.
Right.
And that's crazy.
Well, it's the story for so many people, except for this small group of us where that's not the story. So it's almost like you have a right to feel that way, but I
Yeah,
think the story you're getting to is when that doesn't end well,
yeah,
how much you lose along the way, too.
yeah. So I think, I mean, I remember trying to remember the timing with IVF, like you go in, I think it was like a week after you go in for your first scan. And I just remember being in the office, like, I was just like happy. I was like, I can't wait to see the scan. Like, I'm pregnant. And I had been feeling pregnant. Like, every time I've been pregnant, I feel like symptoms very early on.
Right.
I had also been experiencing some irregular bleeding, like spotting, which, like, as we know, can mean something or nothing.
That's right.
Um, but I wasn't anxious about it. And I can get like medically anxious, like pre all this like infertility stuff. But I was just over the moon about being pregnant. And my doctor did the scan and I just knew by like the look on his face, like immediately it wasn't good. And he was like, I don't see anything. And that was just like too much for me to handle.
Yeah.
Um, I was just shocked and like overwhelmed by it and was like, this can't be happening.
Yeah.
And he was worried it could have been an ectopic pregnancy because my numbers were kept going up.
Mhm.
They couldn't find the embryo.
Right.
Um,
And so that
thankfully,
ectopic is when you're, to your point, when your pregnancy numbers, your HCG goes up, but there's no embryo in your uterus. So the
yeah,
question is,
outside.
where is it?
Yeah.
Can be really, really dangerous for women.
Yeah. So I was like living in this fear now. As that was what was happening with me. It wasn't. We lost the embryo, but like my levels kept going up and we were scared that that was happening.
Yeah.
Um, anyways, that was just like awful and really traumatizing and completely caught us off guard.
Yeah.
It was like over the holidays, so we kind of took, December and January to regroup. And I remember my doctor at the time was like, look, like we can try again top of the year. Um, I know it sounds like a really far way away, but like February will be here before you know it. You just need to get your period and have like one menstrual cycle, and then we can like start up again.
Yeah.
which we did. And I came back to see him sometime in February. We did like the scan, and he was like, stopped like quickly. And again, I knew something was wrong. He was like, why don't you get dressed and like come into my office and talk?
Oh,
And since then, like I'm so triggered by any like routine scan. Like I've
it's real
never,
trauma. This is all
yeah.
real
It
trauma.
like really rewired something in me. Like even after being out of the thick of this, like I'm out of the woods. I've closed the chapter with IVF for myself. Like I had to have a scan over the winter, just like a routine ultrasound. I hadn't had one in a couple years, and like the amount of anxiety I had during it, it's like this feeling that comes up since that day. Like it's like hardwired in me.
I
It's like
mean,
something I'm working through, but like
yeah.
that day like changed it for me forever.
And we'll note to us and edit. Let's come back to this because I think this is a
Yeah.
really important piece, which
Okay.
is like what happens after your journey's over? Where does all that trauma live and how does
Yeah.
it live? And then what do you do about it? Because I mean, for myself too, um, we can record, we can keep this or you can move it. Uh, I find, having had a lot of miscarriages as part of my fertility story before I had my child, anytime somebody says, I'm pregnant, my first internal, not external response is, and then I'm like, congratulations. Even
Same.
though I'm a parent, I got to the other end of my story, but it's still where my nervous system holds its trauma.
Same. Like someone told me recently, I was at a dinner and someone told me recently that she was pregnant with her second. Like she had just found out, I don't know, like a couple days ago, like she was maybe like a month pregnant. And we're not even that close. Like I knew her through like a friend. And I was like, where are you going with this? Like, but like
Yeah, right.
there is something to be said too about sharing that information sooner than like waiting to like the 3 or 4 month mark. Like everyone's so different,
And
but
not being alone, right? Like everybody needs support, but also the bliss of people that don't know this experience, who
totally.
fall pregnant on their own. They assume they're going to have a baby 9 months later. And they assume that telling people I'm pregnant is the happiest thing, which it is. It's the happiest thing, except there are other people walking around who are obviously happy for them, but it's just a reflection of their own pain or trauma.
Yeah.
Hmm. We'll
Do
come
you,
back to this because I think this is important. But so fast,
sorry if am I too all over the place?
no, you're great. This is good.
Okay.
I can relate to, I mean, I also had like a 6 year story of my own, so I can really relate to this.
Okay.
Um, and our road isn't a straight line. So you're telling a story. It's not a straight line. Don't worry. It doesn't need to
Yeah.
be.
Okay.
Um, so you went in, and this was like the start of the trauma, which is like, come on in. And now you're
Yeah.
carrying this burden forever, still today. But what happened at that point?
Basically, my doctor was like, you have quite a large cyst that's popped up between when your last pregnancy and prep for this IVF cycle. And I was just like, it was like a skinny long cyst. He mismarked it as an endometrioma, ended up just being like a simple cyst.
I see.
But I can't remember how big it was. It was significant enough if it were a chocolate cyst endometrioma that it had to be addressed before our next like transfer. And I was just like, oh my God, like
Yeah.
seriously? And I had this just panic that, all the hormones, which they can exasperate cysts. They, if you have like fibroids and cysts, like taking these hormones, there's a chance that they will grow larger or a chance that they won't. But I've always had this fear since then that like things are gonna keep popping up, and like that's like the root of my anxiety.
Mhm.
When every time I get like an ultrasound, I'm like,
Mhm.
what's going on now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so ended up doing my second surgery, and it was much more in and out. Like we just like addressed that one cyst, and it didn't even have to be a surgery. It was kind of like annoying, but recovery was much quicker. Um, it was all much more easy than the last one. Like the first surgery, like really, really knocked me out. Um, but yeah, so we did the surgery. But that like really shifted me. Like I would say like that time for like the next couple of years were like my darkest times during fertility. Like that really did like a number on me, like emotionally. It really heightened my anxiety. I was just in fear of something constantly going wrong or not working. And I felt like I was just on this hamster wheel for like a couple of years after that, of just like putting my body through a lot.
Yeah. And what,
Yeah.
how did you support yourself during these times? Or maybe did you support
I,
yourself?
w- um, I wasn't in therapy at the time. I got into therapy for the first time, like the tail end, I would say maybe like 2022. So like I was doing my best, talking about it with like my friends and family. I had gotten better at opening up to people about what was going on. In doing so, I started to form my little like IVF community. Was finding out more and more that other friends and family were going through what I was going through. And beginning, it just felt like no one was.
Yeah.
But like the more you get comfortable talking about it, either you realize like one of your best friends is going through it at the same time as you, or they might have like a cousin for you to talk to that went to a clinic that would be like a better fit for you, or um, they're doing egg retrieval while you're doing IVF. Like I remember at the time my cousin was doing egg retrieval while we were trying to make embryos, and like while we were at very different stages of our life, just like having her to talk to about was like so helpful.
Yeah.
Um, so
That community is so vital. I mean,
yeah,
whenever anyone goes through something stressful, like the research and data shows that community and
yeah,
social support is one of the most important things. So, when you're going through this, it's like don't isolate, but you also have to find the right people to support you. I
yeah,
always say to people,
yeah,
not every friend is the person to talk to about this, to cry about this with. And it doesn't mean they're a bad friend. It just,
totally,
it's like they might be the person to go out for dinner and laugh with, but
totally.
you just need like one or two
Yeah.
people that you can really be honest with the big stuff.
And just like that's what I say to women going through this now. I'm like, they're like, what's your biggest advice? I'm like, just find like a couple of people that you can call or text whenever you need to like lament to or ask questions, to be like, or just like to vent. Because it's like even some of these people in I have like IVF friends, now like we had our baby via surrogate. We haven't even gotten into that. Like I have a few friends in my like little like surrogacy network.
Yeah,
Now I have like my mom friends. Like
that's right.
I have all these like little pockets, and some of these people are like my bestest friends, and some people are just like people that I contact to talk about like the IVF world, that like some of my closest friends just like can't relate to because
Right,
they've never been through it. So how
right,
how would they be able to? And like that's
right.
all totally okay. But like having your little community, or big, whatever works for you. Like I'm very introverted, so Um, this wasn't something I was comfortable sharing on social media at the time, or like talking to people that were more casual friends, like just finding people I could really trust. Um, was like a game changer for me just to talk to you about anything. And like being there for them too is like, I don't know, it is empowering and it also makes like gets you out of your own headspace.
Right.
It's
That's right.
like helping others makes the process better because you don't feel so alone and you can like use the information that you learn to pass on.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's so important. You just have to find your right way to do it, right? Because to your point, everybody's different. Some people are just more externalized and extroverted, where some people are a little bit more introverted or private. And you just have to find your way, but you've got to find a way to connect. So,
So we did I did the surgery and then prepped again for our second transfer. We did that like late spring of 21, got pregnant again. And um we're excited, but much more hesitant this time. It was like, okay, we're pregnant. We're not gonna get too excited, but we're like a little bit excited, but like I only had
preserved, protected.
my levels were really good this time. They were high. We're like, maybe it didn't work last time because like initially my HCG was low. My numbers are really high. This is great. Like it's as good as it could be. And again, I miscarried. I think my first miscarriage was like at the 6 week mark. This was maybe 7 weeks. And that was devastating.
Yeah.
And my doctor ran like additional testing, like blood testing to rule out like any like I think it was like lupus and like
Yeah,
uh,
autoimmune probably related.
yeah, I mean you maybe cut that part out, but like it was like to rule out like autoimmune issues. And then he had to do like quite a painful procedure. It was like I remember summer of 21, it must have been, to check if there was like any abnormalities in my like uterine lining.
Mhm.
Um, and
Like to test for endometritis.
maybe
They
it's
usually take
also to
a
see if you
biopsy
have
every.
like a cavity in your uterus.
Okay.
Uh, it's like manual. It's like super painful.
Yeah, usually with what I wonder if you're talking about, it's you're awake, you're in the stirrups, and they take a biopsy of a uterine.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's like it's like a pap on steroids.
Yeah. It's
And
like somebody's
sometimes you
like
get
biting you in your uterus.
yeah, and you take what's like the drug, you take the drug that like opens up your cervix. My surrogate did it for labor to like induce herself.
Pitocin?
No, it starts with an M. Um, you take this drug to like open up your cervix to make it like so he can like see better what's going on the next day. And that was super painful,
Yeah.
like the worst cramps ever. But yeah, he did this like routine exam and like got the results back. And he was like, everything's fine. Like, and I just knew in my gut something was not fine. And
Mhm.
at that point, I asked him, I was like, look, like, we know I have endometriosis. We've had 2 miscarriages. I don't know why something in my gut at this point, I was like, should we consider surrogacy? Like, am I, when is like it too early to have that conversation? Um, and he, and I agree with this to some extent, was like, it's way too early. Like, we've only tried twice. I think we need to try one more time, um, and see what happens. And he's, I was like, okay, like following the doctor's
Yeah.
lead. I also felt like we were at this point kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall, but I was like,
But it
I
sounds like at that point you knew you were getting close to your own threshold.
I was like in a not great place.
Yeah.
I just, like I said earlier, I felt like I was on this hamster wheel of like the excitement of like prepping for the cycle and doing the transfer and like that. every time we would like start the transfer, you're like kind of running on adrenaline. You're getting up early every morning for these like um monitoring visits at the clinic, and you're like hopeful. You're like, this is going to be like the one, like it's going to work this time. And then like we would do the transfer, and then like the doom would just set in, and my anxiety would set in.
Yeah.
And uh we did the third transfer, got pregnant again. Numbers were good. And like clockwork, I miscarried again. Um, I don't know, like the 6 or 7 week mark. I never made it past like 7 weeks.
Yeah.
Um, like regrouped with my doctor, and he was like, you're like 1 in 100. Like at this point, you know, it's you're like the 1% of women who do like get pregnant 3 times.
Right.
Yeah, IVF and miscarry. This is very uncommon. Um, he left me just feeling like really helpless. He still was very reserved about us exploring surrogacy. And he was like, we could put you on like a different protocol, um, and try like one more time. But I knew when I talked to him that last time, I was like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think this is like the right clinic for me. I just felt defeated, and like he didn't give me much confidence that we were going to yield different results if we tried. And like we had lost 3 beautiful
For you.
embryos at this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that is at the point where we switched clinics.
Yeah. It's so important when you get to a place where you feel like your doctor isn't partnering with you and hearing what your needs are. Obviously, your doctor is the medical expert, but you're the expert of your body and your
Yeah,
capacity. And really it's this very unique, special relationship. And if that's not happening, it's really important to at least see if, what else can be done. Are there
yeah,
other folks that
yeah.
might kind of be able to step in a different way?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you really have to be your own advocate
Yep.
and like understand your body and like also like your intuition.
Yeah.
So my intuition, like my gut feeling was just telling me it was time to at least explore other doctors. Like, I'm really fortunate. I live in New York, so I have access to some of the best. And I just knew it was like if I didn't explore like a second opinion, like I was always gonna wonder.
Yeah.
And it also felt like kind of like a fresh start.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So at that point, we moved to CCRM with Dr. Levine, who I highly regard. Um,
Dr. Levine's wonderful.
yeah, he's the best. And he was referred to me by a friend of a friend who ended up being my neighbor, who uh, she also struggled with her own pregnancies as well for totally different reasons. But she like um, recommended him. She highly regarded him, and he just was like a better fit for me for like a more complicated case. So we did one more egg retrieval with him. No, we did 2 egg retrievals with CCRM. Um, and then prepped for my 4th transfer, which was, that must have been, gosh, August or September of
23, 22.
2022 or 23, 22. Yeah.
A couple years ago. We can just be like a couple years ago.
A couple years ago. Um, he put me on like a vastly different protocol, like both for like egg retrieval and like for the IVF prep. So he actually put me on like a Lupron protocol,
Great.
uh, like 2 months before the transfer, and that basically just like shuts your system down to
And
like
it
calm down your endo.
quiets your endometriosis, which is a wonderful thing to do, especially if you know you have endometriosis.
Yeah. So we did that and did the transfer like end of summer, and again got pregnant. and again lost that pregnancy at the same 6 or 7 week mark.
Right.
And as devastating as that was, it was also like I'll back up a little bit. Like by the time we started with Dr. Levine to uh transfer, um Chris and I just had really realistic conversations because like the time between starting with CCRM to like the transfer was like about a year. It wasn't overnight. You know, we did 2 egg retrievals, we did the Lupron protocol, we did the transfer prep, etc. So
I think that's so important for people to hear that
yeah,
sometimes just one round of IVF, especially if you're being intentional about outcomes, can take a very long time.
yeah. And like there's something that like with time, I used to get so hung up on time. Like be like every birthday I would like dread because I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be this old when I become a mom, at least. Or like if by the time we like do, it's gonna be like 4 months until we do the next prep. Everything seemed like so much time, and like you have to let go of time at some point because it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like,
Right. It's one of the last vestiges. Like in the beginning, we feel like it's the thing we've got control over until we realize we don't have
no.
it. And then it can be really freeing when you're like, okay, well, it when it will be.
Yeah, and this is like around the time I let go of time. Like when I started with CCRM, I just let go of time, and there was something really liberating about that because it was like I've already, okay, we've got embryos. Like we have a few left. Like we're good. Like I've got to let go of time and like what age I'm going to become a mom, like because it doesn't matter.
Right.
And like that was kind of the point where I started therapy, and I just started slowly feeling like a little lighter, and like that like dark phase was starting to lift, even though we were like in the thick of it still. But yeah, we did while we were waiting to do the transfer, Chris and I had some really honest conversations of like, okay, so if this transfer doesn't work, fourth one, what will we do? And he really didn't want me at that point to do any more IVF cycles. He, for my mental health, like my physical health, and I was pretty much on the same page at that point, and we started talking about surrogacy, and like if this we knew if this cycle didn't work, we were going to start exploring surrogacy. So um that was like a conversation we had like a year out. So we knew when I had that last loss, as awful as it was kind of like, all right, it's time to pivot. Like we're gonna um close this chapter. We had a conversation with Dr. Levine shortly after, and it was like the first thing he said, which like I just like respect so much. Like rather than pushing me to do one more cycle, he was like, we could like adjust your protocol a little bit more and put you on even like more hormones, but like there's a trend happening here, and I think you've been through enough. And at this point, it's time to explore other ways of becoming a parent. And like, I just was like, okay,
You're a person in the process. You're not just a tool to get pregnant, that he was looking at you
yeah,
just as much as a person trying to have a child, that he was looking at you and your needs too, which is such a beautiful example of that complement where you really need that partnership with your doctor.
yeah. And I just felt literally like freed of all. I was like, okay, like, this wasn't an overnight decision to pivot to surrogacy. I just like we had wrapped our heads around it. It wasn't ideally what we wanted. I wanted to carry our child, but my body couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And I had accepted that. And I kind of accepted that that was like a big possibility with this like last cycle that we did. I just kind of relinquished control and was like, it is what it is. It's going to work or it's not going to work. And um, we were all very aligned on like the next step. And yeah, so we started exploring surrogacy agencies and interviewing them and like narrowed down like the agency that we were going to use. We were even considering like a surrogate, like a candidate to move forward with. And then I found out I was pregnant. Like,
Unassisted on your
yeah,
own? Yep.
yeah, which happens frequently because I really do believe there was something like I got pregnant because I let all this go. Like I really believed I can't get pregnant. I was like, I deleted all the apps from my phone. Didn't feel a need to use protection because I was like, there's no way I'm
Yeah.
gonna get pregnant.
Yeah.
I'm also like, 39 at the time. Like the chances are like lower. And like we need to get back to remembering, how to be intimate
That's right.
without trying to get pregnant.
Right. Just be
Um,
a normal couple again with your sex life.
yeah. And like we got pregnant basically like right after we started exploring surrogacy, like maybe a month and a half after
And
yeah, we got pregnant. I called Dr. Levine like the next day, freaking out. I was like, um, so like the craziest thing happened because he knew we were like exploring surrogacy. I was like, I'm like talking to a surrogate, but I got pregnant. And he was like, Jenny, this happens all the time.
yeah,
I was like, I don't know what to do because like I was so used every time I'd be pregnant, I got like monitored at the clinic like every week. And the nerves set in, the anxiety set in. He's like, just come in and see me.
good.
Um, and he monitored that pregnancy. I made it to week 11. And at that point, it was like, wow, you're almost like through the first trimester. I didn't need any like assisted hormones. My body was doing what it needed to be. Everything was okay. Um, it was like really hard to believe
Yeah.
that was happening. Um, so when he kind of set me free, he was like, you have to go see your OB. Like I can't deliver this baby free.
Yeah. Right.
It's like I don't want to.
Really? Can't you?
Can you just keep seeing me through my
You're-
pregnancy?
When you have a great relationship with your reproductive endocrinologist, the doctor, I mean, they're seeing you weekly, sometimes more than once a week.
Yeah.
It is such a special relationship that
Yeah.
it's also so heartbreaking to say goodbye.
Yeah, I felt so safe at that
Yeah,
clinic and like I was in such good hands and like you're getting a scan every week. It's not normal, but that's like all I knew. So like leaving that little nest was terrifying. And although I like really liked my OB, I just was like not ready to leave that nest.
sure.
Um, And sadly, when I went to get my scan with her at like the 11-week mark, she was so excited because she knew how long that I had been trying. And I remember her like walking into the room, just like grinning ear to ear. And like she started doing the ultrasound, and I could just tell on her face.
You know this drill, unfortunately, well,
And I was just full of nerves, like,
of course.
because any scan is like very triggering to me to this day. And like, I was like in shock. She was like, I could tell like holding back tears. Um, And she was like, there's no heartbeat, Jenny. Like, when is the last time you had a scan? And I was like 5 days ago. Like, I've been seeing my like other doctor every week. And yeah, I was just in shell shock. It was a terrible day. My husband travels a lot for work. He was out of the country. Um, and yeah, it was the worst. But like I was like numb. Like I don't think I cried about it for like days after because I just
You were just in survival mode and
yeah,
also overprotection mode, right? Like
yeah,
your nervous system just after so many traumas over and over, it just kind of
yeah.
creates a hardened shell around
Yeah.
it.
And then you like see people around you crying about it, and you're like, what
Yeah, sure.
is wrong with me?
Yeah, it's
I
dissociation. It's to protect us.
yeah. So, that was my last pregnancy, and the tears came later, the grief came later,
Good.
and I would say like a few weeks after that loss, I wasn't I wasn't ready to start the process of surrogacy again, but I had done all the homework. Luckily, we had selected an agency. Our profile was made, like all the work was done like administratively. So I just like sent them an email, told them what happened, and was like, I'm ready to get started because the process of matching with a surrogate typically is not overnight.
Many, many, many months.
Yeah, so like I knew in my gut by the time we even match with like a candidate that might be a possibility, like I'm going to be more ready to have this conversation. And I knew I didn't want to put it off that long. So I'm grateful that I did that. And we started interviewing candidates and matched with our surrogate, Bethany, later that spring. And now we have our 1 year old.
Amazing,
Yeah.
amazing. I think all the work you did to try to get to that place, and sometimes um, it's the shift to the goal is to have a baby, not always to get pregnant. And
Yeah.
that shift can kind of open up so many more possibilities.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, and that was like, she kind of came into our lives like she was just so light and like happy and excited and wanted to help us and like loved being pregnant and like it was just like wonderful. It's like the energy that I needed to
Yeah,
get through the pregnancy.
yeah, amazing. You did it with her. She helped you get there. It's amazing. I mean, I think that's also a beautiful example of how surrogacy can kind of be, then you really have somebody holding your hand
Yeah.
into motherhood.
Yeah.
So cool. What a story that is filled with such a great example of resiliency, like really being able to get through hard things over and over and perseverance, but also that when we kind of expand our perception of what it's going to be or look like, we create opportunity from like we can't control time and how freeing it was to let go to I don't have to do this way. I can
Yeah.
explore other ways and still become a parent.
Yeah. Which is like it's all good. There's different avenues of becoming a parent. Um, I'd say obviously most of us would prefer to carry our own baby, but if you let go of that expectation, it can be really freeing. And um, you just have to be really open. It's like we were like pretty, certain. Like I would check in with my husband after every like miscarriage, to be like, do you still want to do this? Like, do we just like want to live child free? And we would always be like, no, we want kids. Like, we're gonna have a kid somehow. Like it
It's
was
the
never always gonna
only
be.
promise I make my clients is I say to them, if you want a child, I don't know how you'll have that child, and I don't know when you'll have that child.
Yeah,
But I actually can promise you, if you want a child, you will have a child. You just have to kind of be really fluid around the when
yeah.
and the how.
Yes, but that always gave me like a sense of like calmness. Like when I was in the thick of things, not working the way I wanted it to be, I would remind myself like, no, we still want a kid. And if it doesn't work via surrogate, like we're still gonna have a kid. Like there are other avenues, and I'm fortunate enough that I have resources um, to explore different ways of having kids. Not everyone has so many resources, so I don't know. I'm grateful. Um, but yeah, I knew definitively at some point we were gonna have a kid no matter what.
It's incredible. I mean, that's the point in the end. It's hard to stay there when you're in the thick of it.
Yeah.
But coming back to that, I find is so important with my clients and kind of even for my own journey, just not losing sight of at the end, this I don't know how I'm gonna get there, but I know I'm gonna get there.
Yeah. It's it's like your North Star.
Yeah, it's your North Star.
Yeah.
Jenny, thank you for telling your story. I
I'm
really
so glad. I mean, I always said when we had our kid, I would find a way to talk more about like our story and what we went through to have Lenny, my son, just to help out and spread awareness and like make this like a normal thing to talk about and not like so like taboo.
That's right. So many people are going through it, feeling alone, and telling your story really helps connect people to a similar, like every story is a little different, but a similar path people walk.
Yeah.